got a loaded show for you today. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft. I was scouring through the internet, and I found a handful of mock drafts for some pretty notable sources and some pretty notable outlets. So I wanted to go through and see who each outlet was thinking the New Orleans Saints will select at number 14 overall. So sorry for the late video, guys. We had a ton of breaking news here at the Chat Sports Studios, and your boy had to help out on the producer side of things, but we're here. We're ready to give you the content. So like the video and let's get this thing rolling. Shout them out for me, Saints fans. Who should New Orleans draft at number 14 overall? Do you think it should be a quarterback? Do you think it should be a lineman, defensive player, a wide receiver, running back? It could be anybody. I want you to be the draft analyst and be the draft expert and let me know who you think New Orleans should draft. All right, so in terms of my 2024 outlook, these are what I believe are the definite needs for New Orleans. The edge rusher position, defensive tackle, offensive guard, wide receiver, and linebacker. Now, we're going to talk about a wide receiver, and I'm going to have a take that kind of contradicts this point, but I'm a believer you go draft a wide receiver every single draft. Because why not? You need more pass-catching ability. Potential needs. I don't think quarterback's a big need. Honestly, I don't think the Saints are going to draft a quarterback at all. You drafted Jake Haener last year. You traded up to go and get him. He's a player that I think New Orleans believes in as a QB2. Running back, safety, cornerback, and center as well. And like we said, the Saints are selecting at number 14 overall. So let's set the scene here so that way you guys can be smarter fans. And that way I can be a smarter YouTuber. So the 2024 draft order, you see it on your screen. The Chicago Bears have that number 1 overall pick because the Carolina Panthers traded the Kings ransom to draft Bryce Young. Shout out to Carolina for doing that. The draft order is on your screen. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams here that take some pretty interesting names, and I also think that there could be a lot of reshuffling with some trades as the offseason progresses. But let's look at the 11 through 14. New Orleans Saints are selecting after the Raiders, Broncos, and Vikings in terms of the people outside of the top 10. Anything outside of that or after the New Orleans Saints doesn't matter because the New Orleans Saints are the only thing that matters in my eyes. So let's talk about the picks that New Orleans has going into 2024. Obviously, on your screen, you don't see the comp picks. You could get a handful of those from letting some of those guys walk last offseason in free agency. Some of those could be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round picks kind of thing. So I don't think it's going to get a ton of 3rd round picks. You maybe get one if you're really, really lucky. I don't even think you're going to get one. But you have a 1st round pick, Denver 2nd, a 5th round pick, 2 6th, and a 7th. Not a lot of draft capital, so don't be surprised if the Saints make a move to trade some players to get more picks. But guys, this is why you subscribe, lock us in, and sub for our draft coverage. We have live and on-demand videos. We have live and on-demand content all around the draft. We're going to be going live during the NFL draft, and we're also going to be breaking down any draft rumors, mock drafts. We're going to be doing our own mock drafts and all that kind of fun stuff as well. So we got a lot of draft content. I encourage you to subscribe. I encourage you to lock us in, and I encourage you to become a better Saints fan by getting informed. So let's go through the mock draft roundup. We've set the scene. We've talked about what the Saints need. Now here's what the experts are saying. ESPN selected J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, and here's what they had to say on that pick. The Saints have historically shown commitment to the trenches in early rounds, and considering that Trevor Penning hasn't lived up to his 1st round billing and Ryan Ramczyk battled knee injuries this season, offensive tackle should be a high priority in New Orleans. I totally agree for the record. Latham is a massive 6'5", 350-pound brick wall with power at the point of attack and good quickness. He is a dominant run blocker, able to take away defenders quickly once he gets his hands on them. If he lands in a scheme that prioritizes downhill running, Latham has the potential to be a reliable starter. Now, plain and simple, the Saints offensive line just has to be better. We're going to go through some stats, and we're actually going to give you a pretty interesting stat that I think a lot of y'all are going to be surprised about, but the offensive line has to be better. And it's not just in terms of protecting Derek Carr or Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston or whoever the hell is going to be the quarterback. It's going to be Derek Carr for the record, but whoever is lined up at quarterback, You also got to create lanes for your running backs. That's why Jamal Williams wasn't able to create the production that he did with Detroit. That's why Alvin Kamara wasn't able to get or be as effective. Kendre Miller, in the limited sample size we saw him in, was good. I think it could have been great if the offensive line would have been playing better. Now, in terms of J.C. Latham, you see the PFF's grades on your screen. Here's how he compares to those guys that you just saw, especially the two on the outside in Ryan Ramczyk and Andrus Peat. So the overall grade, just under 82. The run blocking grade is stellar at 79.6. The pass blocking grade is great at 81.7. 2 sacks allowed for the Alabama Crimson Tide offensive lineman. He is a huge player, and I think he could have an even bigger impact on this Saints offensive line that desperately needs some help. So the Athletic, this is going to be one that I think ruffles some feathers. Rome Odunze, the wide receiver phenom out of the Washington Huskies. You guys watched the national championship, I'm assuming. I watched it. Little bit of an underwhelming performance from Penix. I think he was dealing with some injuries. Rome Odunze is a great football player, and I think that he could be an interesting fit. I think that he could be a fit on New Orleans, but I don't necessarily think that the Saints need to go and draft him at 14 overall. But let's look at what the Athletic had to say. They said that there could be an early run on receivers, meaning Odunze might not be on the board this late. The best of Michael Penix Jr.'s fabulous Washington wide receiver trio. Odunze is a powerful, big-bodied leaper with enough speed and wiggle to play the X, Z, or slot position in the league. He would pair well long-term with Chris Olave. Now, the production for Odunze, you can't argue it. It's freaking incredible. Less than 100 catches, but 1,600-plus yards. 13 touchdowns, and the average you see on his screen, unbelievable at 18 yards per catch. He's a big-bodied guy. He can go and get the jump ball. He can climb the ladder, and he can go and get contested catches. But doesn't that sound like somebody that's already on the roster? Not Michael Thomas. A.T. Perry. You just drafted that last year out of the Wake Forest. I don't think you need to prioritize wide receiver in round 1. I think you can go get one in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. I don't think you have to go and go and prioritize getting a wide receiver when you have a big-bodied guy, when you have a player who can climb the ladder, when you have a guy who is dominant on the jump ball. I think A.T. Perry has been great. Now, obviously, he's not the only wide receiver. Olave, Shaheed, you have Johnson at tight end, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill. You have a handful of really good pass catchers. But I think that A.T. Perry could have a massive step in year 2 with a much larger role, and that's why I don't think the Saints need to prioritize a wide receiver in round 1. But you tell me, what is the biggest draft need for New Orleans? If it's wide receiver, this is your chance to let me know and say, Trace, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? I want you to let me know your thoughts. What's the biggest draft need? So the third player that we're talking about from CBS, they had the Saints selecting Brock Bowers, the Georgia Bulldogs tight end. I'm going to get into what they had to say in my analysis on the tight end. But before we get into that, got to give you guys a really quick heads up. Fanatics has the jerseys when we have a link, and you guys can go and get yourself geared up, swagged out, and iced out for next season. Now, we don't know if Michael Thomas will be around next year, but he's a Saints legend. And I'm a believer. You go and get jerseys for legends of your team. You got to go get yourself an MT jersey if you don't have one. But if you want to get a player who's definitely going to be around for the long future, Chris Olave. That's the jersey I'm getting next. I already have my Tyrann Mathieu jersey. I got the home black one, but this icy black or white and gold color rush, come on, man. You're telling me you don't want that jersey? What about Wham Bam Thank You Cam, the GOAT? What about one of our franchise legends, one of the best franchise legends and one of the best NFL players? You can get his jersey or any other Saints jersey at chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. All that information in the comment section, the description of this video, because I love you. So CBS Sports, they had this to say on Brock Bowers and why he would be a fit for New Orleans. The Saints could go wide receiver here too, but Brock Bowers feels like stealing at number 14. I'll repeat what I wrote back on December 4th in my last mock draft. In the last 20 years, 19 tight ends have gone in the first round. 5 of those were selected in the top 10. The other 14 were drafted between 19 and 32. I mention this because I think Brock Bowers is special. In fact, he's the number 5 player on my big board. And maybe he's different. He'll be the tight end worth taking in the top 10. For now, though, I have him going to in the middle of the round to New Orleans. Now, number 19 has been doing it really, really well since he stepped foot in Athens at Georgia. 56 catches in 2021, 882 yards and 13 touchdowns. Oh my goodness. In 2022, had more yards, less touchdowns, but hey, he was still a dog. 942 yards, almost eclipsed 1,000 yards as a tight end. That's pretty impressive. And in 2023, this year, 56 catches, 714 yards, 6 touchdowns. I think Bowers could be an elite fit for any football team. But my question to you, Saints fans, is do you need a tight end? Because you have Juwan Johnson, you have Foster Moreau, and you have Taysom Hill. Now, you're going to see this, and you guys are going to yell at me, but this is what the depth chart shakes out to be on a lot of different websites, so don't shoot the messenger. But my question is, do you need a tight end? Do you need another guy, another tight end to take up another spot? Because what are you going to do? Trade Taysom Hill? No. Trade Foster Moreau? Probably not. Trade Juwan Johnson? No. What are you going to do there? You can't. 4 tight ends on a roster is just way too many. That's my point here. So there is something that you need to think about. That is something that could be explored. Maybe a Taysom Hill trade or something. Maybe a Juwan Johnson trade. Maybe Foster Moreau gets cut or traded. Who knows? But I want you to get in the war room for me. Would you draft Brock Bowers? I mean, he's an incredible prospect, and he has a ceiling that is so damn high. So maybe he's a player you can't pass up on. Just give me a D for draft or P for pass in the comment section right now. All right, we got 2 more players, and the next one's Jared Verse. PFF had the Saints drafting the Florida State Seminole at the edge rusher position, and here's their breakdown for why. The Saints could be in for heavy turnover this offseason, but whether it's a lot or a little, they need to invest in a difference-making edge rusher versus a powerful player who can win with speed to power from 3-point and 2-point stances. He's not quite as big as Cam Jordan, but he brings a similar all-around ceiling. Now, here's my thing. I would love Jared Verse in New Orleans. Shout out to my girlfriend, Maddie the Batty, for this absolutely badass Jared Verse jersey swap in a Saints uniform. And that's, I mean, he already looks good in the black and gold. Come on. You can't argue with that. And like the quote said from PFF, Cameron Jordan isn't getting any younger. The production, it dipped a little bit this year. Carl Granderson stepped up big time. Isaiah Foskey didn't play a ton. Jared Verse, maybe he's your guy that you could have be another young piece on that defensive line. The production was pretty damn good for the Seminole. 12.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 3 pass breakups, 41 tackles. He was stellar for Florida State, and I think that he could be a really good addition for the New Orleans Saints. So, lastly, we're going to talk about Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Bleacher Report had the Saints selecting him at number 14 overall, and here's why. Oklahoma's Tyler Guyton has elite size at 6'7", 328 pounds, and athletic ability, but he's similarly raw. So this would carry some risk. The bet is on upside, which Guyton absolutely provides with better feet and more natural movement skills in pass protection than Trevor Penning. That could provide enough comfort for the team to come back to the tackle table so quickly. Now, the production, it's PFF. I get it. Not a lot of y'all like PFF grades. He did give up 0 sacks for the Sooners. That's not bad. Decent pass blocking grade, 72.9. It's not bad. The run blocking grade and the overall just not high enough for a player that I would take at 14 overall. But that's just me personally. And like that quote said, it's like another, high upside player. You're drafting the upside. I don't want another project, man. I'm tired of drafting players that are projects. You're drafting based on upside. Marcus Davenport, Trevor Penning, in most recent history. Do I need to go down the list of more? I don't think so, because that is enough for me to just be like, no, let's stop with the projects. Let's go and get somebody who's developed/developing and can be a long-term impact player almost right away. Again, they're rookies, so there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but I don't want another project, man. I'm just tired of trying to pick up somebody who could be good. I want somebody who is good and can be great. So if you made it to the end of the video, this was a little bit of a longer one. And again, we're putting it out a little bit later here on Wednesday. So I want to give you guys the opportunity to earn a shout out in a future video. Just give me a real one down in the comment section because it's a real one. Roll call. Saints fans, y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.